field, he's got one to beat, gets it to Pritchard, the big man's away, and he plunges over to score the first point of the game.
Post-try action in him.
While Sydney is known for its iconic landmarks, stunning beaches and diverse heritage, it also harbours an undercurrent of cultural competition and territorial disputes. There are now areas of our city that are a battleground where the border of the suburb shapes the lives of its inhabitants. These so-called postcode wars, fought by suburban gangs, are a web of rivalries, alliances and tensions, brought on by a misguided sense of tribal mentality. While this escalating level of suburban violence, predominantly knife crime, is relatively new, the need and the struggle for identity and belonging is not. NRL players Tamana Tahu, Frank Pritchard, Josh Alloway and Rennie Matua have spoken out against street gangs in the hope of making a difference to vulnerable youth.
It only takes one poor decision and you could spend the rest of your life in jail. You're seeing that now. The postcode wars, kids stabbing each other, it doesn't register in my head. I can't understand that people are trying to protect their areas, or going to even other areas to try to get this notoriety that they're tougher than the next group.
Postcode gangs, I've spoken to a few different postcode gang members, and I actually asked them, I said, oh, what is the deal? And they go, oh no, if you come into our postcode, we're gonna hurt you. And it confuses me because they're families. They're actually related. And even in New Zealand, the gangs, they're two different gangs and they're all related.
I've been pretty outspoken about my thoughts on the postcode wars and the gang violence. Polynesians on Polynesians. Our forefathers came over to these countries to give their kids and grandkids and next generations better life, better opportunity. And here we are squandering it, fighting against one another, killing one another, burying our own. They're just senseless violence and fighting with no purpose.
There was a lot of crime in the locations where I lived, and there were a lot of kids that were going to boys' homes. Frank Baxter and also Cobbin. I've seen a lot of family members, young kids and friends go to those jails, and back then to me it was either, there was two ways: you were either going to jail or you were going to these Aboriginal hostels. So half the kids I knew were going to hostels and the other half were going into correctional facilities. For myself and having stability in my life, living in Aboriginal hostels was a big one for me.
I'm pretty lucky. When I was coming through my generation, we didn't have the postcode war stuff that they have now. The rap music, the sense of belonging for generation today is a lot easier for kids to get sucked in and be involved in gangs and stuff like that. But they feel like it's family, it's a sense of belonging. But we've got to educate these kids that there's something better than that.
Postcode wars is definitely a syndicate, I would call it a syndicate, of young people engaging in violent crimes together, coming from different area codes. Young people coming from really hard backgrounds, broken homes where they don't get along with family. It's an escape route for them. It's a brotherhood, and it's a place where they feel like they belong, no matter how misguided it is, and no matter what trouble they get in. They found that brotherhood, and therefore that's why they join.
Gangs were family. Like, now I know I was looking for my own identity, but back then it was actually a safety and family unit. And it is that at the start, and then you realise that there's no family bond there, there's no real brotherhood there. At the end of the day, it's you fend for yourself, you're out for yourself. Loyalty, there's none.
Historically, migration sees different ethnic groups settling in different parts of Sydney to become home. These patterns of settlement provide a sense of close-knit identity that young people may not find in the wider community.
I was born in King's Cross to a Samoan father and an Australian mother. Born in Paddington Hospital. Well, the reason we lived on King's Cross, his dad's a musician, so he left Samoa when he was 20, migrated to New Zealand. It was in a band. They came to Sydney, met Mum, and I was born in the Cross, and eventually ended up in a housing commission called Daceyville. So South Sydney area, not far from where I sort of hung out in Maroubra Beach.
Growing up in West Auckland as a young Polynesian and teenager and child trying to find my way was difficult. A lot of things are scarce back there in terms of money, opportunity. There's two roads you can go down. It's either work hard and chase your dreams, or you can go down the other road, which is making a dishonest living.
I'm one of 8. My father was the only person working at the time, trying to squeeze 8 kids into a 3-bedroom house. We didn't have the luxury of food at times, and growing up housing commission, and I'm always struggling to afford things. We knew what the task was at the end of the day is, you just try your best and do what you can to survive. And I'm grateful that my father was the one that put food on the table and to give us many things to do what we love to do, and it was play footy and stay in school.
I was born in Melbourne. My mum's from a place called Burke, which is out New South Wales. I am Barkindji, which is Wilkenya, Broken Hill area on the Darling River. And my dad's Māori, and he's Ngāpuhi, which is north of New Zealand. So to me, very grateful I have 2 Indigenous cultures.
Well, growing up in New Zealand was pretty full on. Like, I had gang members all around us because we're in the low income housing in there. So gangs were quite common right from when I was a young kid. My uncle was a gang member, so I had that influence right from the word go, and that was just normality to me. So even when I was a young kid, watching my uncle and that, hitting people with cricket bats and watching the blood come out, putting people through car windows, like, it was just, so you end up surrounding yourself with people without even realising it, and you're actually creating your own little crew to know that you're all right. And I think that's probably the one thing that I learned at a young age, is to try and have the right people around you, and you never have the right people around you.
Well, Western Sydney, there are Australians, there are Pacific Islanders, there are Arabs, Middle Easterns, Asians. It doesn't matter where you come from. You could be easily infiltrated just because a higher demographic in a postcode gang could be of one background or the other. It is all backgrounds that are being influenced in this.
I was very lucky to grow up in a housing commission that was in, close to the beach, and that was just by pure luck, I guess. And growing up in housing commission, I didn't know that we were poor. Mum and Dad were very supportive. I always had clothes on my back. If I wanted the best shoes, I'd have them on my feet, but I didn't really understand how hard Mum and Dad were working. Mum working 2 jobs, Dad as a musician, working right through till 4 or 5 in the morning. They gave me and provided me the best life possible, and we loved the beach. It was more of just a small community, like, I didn't understand that there was crime happening around us, or what they went through probably 5 years before I started hanging at the beach, but that was you know, sort of the first sort of involvement I had with Maroubra, and 2 years later I was asked to get a bra boy tattoo. I was in year 11 in high school, and yeah, and it was an honourable thing for me at the time. I thought I've been accepted by these peers and people we look up to, and yeah, that was the start of my involvement with the bra boys.
Tension between cultural groups has resulted in gangs forming along ethnic or geographical lines, and this has evolved into postcode rivalry. Their turf represents their home, and the idea of protecting it is a way to defend their sense of belonging and preserve their cultural and social identity.
So there was the race riots that happened in Cronulla, and at that point we were watching from afar, and we're the most probably multicultural beach in Sydney. You know, obviously I'm Polynesian, we've got Lebanese that are bra boys, you know, Australian, Aboriginal. It was, when we were watching it, we thought, how stupid's that? We got a phone call saying they're here, and there was about 10 of us in Mum's house. Mum and Dad are freaking out, didn't know what was going on. We've all rushed out, jumped in the cars, went to Maroubra. By the time we got to Maroubra, there was just a path of destruction. There was just cars smashed. A couple of the boys had got, you know, really badly injured. A few of them were badly injured. Some of the guys from out west and us, because we knew them. We knew a lot of them, but when it became racial, it was like, all right, the friendships are on hold. There was a rumour going around that we were going to go and blow up the Punch Bowl Mosque. So there was 4,000 people protecting the mosque, and there's about 300 of us at the beach. And I was at that point playing first grade. Then I've got a mask around my face, you know, like waiting for them to come to us, and helicopters flying over, and it got really ugly. And it wasn't until a couple of my teammates pulled me aside and said, look, this is not your life anymore. You know, there's nothing you can do about this. You need to leave. And I left. So it was a scary time. It was a very scary time. It's actually really lucky that no one died in that situation, and we were able to settle the situation through the Muslim community. You know, there was some bikies that were leaders in their community that met with, you know, a few older guys in Maroubra, and we were able to nut it out, and nothing happened. There wasn't any incidents in Maroubra with guns or anything like that, but my teammate was murdered just down the road here over a mobile phone. He was shot in the chest when we were 18. He came out of a pub on Anzac Day. Two guys approached him, tried to take his phone off him. He wouldn't give up his phone. They shot him in the chest, and he passed away on Canterbury Road, just down the road. And that was, for an 18-year-old, you know, like that was very traumatic to lose a friend. That's when things got really real, and that's when my mindset changed a little bit. It was like, okay, like this could happen to anyone. You don't know who you're messing with.
Knife crimes, gun crimes, it's not as easy as people think. When I first stabbed somebody, it was the noise that you heard when you stabbed somebody. It was like air going in, and you don't expect anything like that. You just think people are going to run away when you pull a knife out, but they don't. And to watch the effects of it, like the guy's leg just opened straight up, and I've been stabbed, I've been shot, and I've been beaten up. And then the worst side of the whole thing is I've done it to other people. So now I know what they go through as well, and I still relive all that. You know, still today, I still relive that. I think the youth today see so much on TV that they don't realise when they actually get stabbed, the things actually start coming out, and you actually got to push stuff back in. You don't just get up and walk away. And actually doing that to somebody, you don't realise that you hear that air go into their body. You know, you see that damage that you've actually inflicted on that other person. And I don't care how tough you are, how good you are, at the end of the day, it's going to come back at you.
As a Maroubra boy, I am passionate about my piece of land, but we don't go out to start fights with Bronny Beach or Bondi Beach or go down to the Shire. We're proud of where we're from. I think it's just really escalated these postcode wars into just stupid violence, stabbing. It just doesn't register with me that I don't care if you're from Mount Druitt, if you're from Blacktown, if you're from Campbelltown, who cares?
Conflict primarily involves young people from disadvantaged backgrounds and features drug trafficking, violence and other antisocial behaviour. Children as young as 10 are being drawn into the gang environment, and what we are seeing now is children killing children. Over the past 4 years, 11 teenagers have been killed in Sydney suburbs, and some of these have been innocent bystanders.
Kayla Dawson is now accused of the murder of a 16-year-old boy in her Doonside home. The 19-year-old is the sixth teenager to be charged over the alleged bashing on Pettigee Close late Wednesday. The alleged victim losing his fight in hospital on the weekend, repeated blows to his chest and head leaving him in a coma. Sources claim the alleged attack, which now has 2 girls and 4 boys as young as 13 before the courts, first began over headphones.
I started Youth Against Violence because I lost one of my close friends, Jason. Jason was only 16 at the time when he was lured to a house in Doonside, and he was subjected to brutal violence, and it was over fake AirPods, or pair of AirPods, but it slowly turned into, as we uncovered later down the track, into postcode notoriety, into like a postcode, pretty much a postcode killing.
Teenagers from rival gangs swinging punches in front of families enjoying a night at the show. Captured on phone vision, a 15-year-old allegedly with a 10-centimetre knife. Nearby, his 17-year-old brother collapses and emergency teams rush in as the area is evacuated.
Cover male, cardiac arrest, stab wound to the chest. CPR in progress.
But he couldn't be saved. A second teenager caught up in the fight was also stabbed in the leg. Police pounced on the 15-year-old who had blood on his hands. He was still allegedly armed with a knife.
That lifestyle at times can be tempting when you're growing up, whether it's easy money or opportunity to make your way up on the street and things like that. I must say a lot of the guys that I went to school with and would call good friends have gone down that road now, and that's the lifestyle that they live. And I guess I'm a huge advocate for making an honest, hard-working living, and that's something you can really be proud of.
As we delved into the realm of postcode wars, which is a complex realm, it's a realm that a lot of people don't understand until you really put in that research to uncover and talk to those young people who have been in part of these gangs, and try to find out what it is. And simply, it's just misguided loyalty to the point where anyone will do anything. In Jason's case, well, the furthest they'll go is murder.
People involved in street gangs, the youth at the moment, which I've spoken to, they think it's a glamorous movie. They don't realise the consequences that they're heading for. A couple of young guys that are just about turned 18 that I've spoken to that are actually looking to go to a men's jail, to a proper jail. Actually, you could see the terror on their faces when the reality actually hit them. It's pretty much 2 guys shoved into a little square, maybe 3 guys sharing a toilet, shower, locked down maybe half the day, maybe a whole day. People doing the most disgusting things you can actually think of, sharing needles, fighting for food, people getting beaten up over nothing. I think the worst thing I've seen was someone get hot watered with jam and it just took their skin straight off. I remember one guy that was a pretty tough guy, and he had said something, and a couple of gang members got together and they beat him up, and his whole side of his face was just mush. There was no bone structure there at all. So they don't understand, once they go from juvie into the men's jail, they lose so much freedom. They don't understand any of that, but when they actually get close to it, then they start realising that they're in trouble. And a lot of gang members in jail will use these young guys to do all their dirty work while they sit there and get away with it.
The postcode wars have not only amplified the allure of gangs, but have also given rise to a culture that glamorises violence and criminal activity. High levels of unemployment and poverty create a fertile ground for disillusioned youth to be enticed by gang membership.
They're being recruited from schools, they're being recruited from the community, and what these postcode gangs are doing is they are targeting vulnerable young people. They're targeting vulnerable young people who have no past criminal history, no background in crime whatsoever, or even in gangs.
It's terrifying for me to see what's happening especially with the postcode wars and things like that. I've got 13 nieces and nephews that are growing up in a society now where like knives are quite prevalent. There's always gun violence, so it's scary. It's social media.
Rap music has engaged a lot of our youth these days, and the words that come behind it. A lot of these kids don't understand that it's hate. Some people say it's poetry, but when you rap about violence and other postcodes, man, young kids are singing it but don't understand what it means.
Drill was a very big motivator in these postcode gangs, and that was around the 2019 period where we saw prominent drill rappers such as 1-4, such as Hooligan Hefts. But the thing is, and this is where it took a very wrong turn, this music started incorporating killings. We're going to stab this person, we're going to shiv this person. The people that have created this whole postcode wars should have known better. They're not young people, and there is no excuse because it is impacting the lives of many young people as well as many communities across New South Wales, but not just across New South Wales. Now it is becoming a bigger problem.
Ongoing conflict deepens socio-economic divides and perpetrates a cycle of disadvantage. People feel unsafe in their own neighbourhood. They become marginalised, isolated and withdrawn from community, education and employment. Instead of working together, communities start to crumble. But there is another way.
A few years ago we had a couple of kids caught up in a fight, in a stabbing. So we took the initiative to create a space where the kids can just come here first and foremost and have a safe hub, and then transition into training. And then as the months went on, a few kids were coming here doing homework, and we needed tutors and teachers to get involved, and it's gone from 4 to 6 kids to now 50, 70 on Tuesdays. We've got 3 teachers who volunteer their time to support all kids, regardless of them being a member of the club or part of the community.
What we believe is that there needs to be pathways for young people where the adults and the decision makers in those organisations are actually reaching out, are finding these young people who are at risk, are finding these young people who are engaging in these antisocial behaviours and getting them in. And again, it goes back to what do the young persons need? Not one shoe fits all, not one solution is going to help every young person.
There's so many jobs out there and there's so many opportunities that relate to that. Being a professional athlete is a great career, and you get to do those things, you get to serve and you get to do community work as well outside of it, but there's also jobs outside of the athletes in NRL clubs.
PCYC is a big one, and that's a program there to engage kids through sport, boxing, karate, fitness, basketball as well. There's a lot of programs there with PCYC. I find the biggest one is our youth off the street. They usually come down here through Fairfield and here at night times, and making sure that no kid goes unnoticed.
I wasn't really looking after my health, and then ever since I've got back in the gym, back boxing, back doing weights, surfing, my life has just flipped like a complete 180. I have never felt so good mentally, purely just by getting out and doing what I can in terms of exercise. Exercise is everything to me. It keeps me motivated. It keeps, I'm sleeping better. I feel more confident But getting back in the gym, I know, or just going for a walk, it's been unbelievable for my well-being and my mental health.
NRL School to Work, it's an Indigenous program, and what it does, it identifies students within the schools in club regions, and it's 50-50 girls and boys, and what it is a mentoring program to help Indigenous students and use the brand of the NRL and sport to get them in the better pathways. So it's a really good program, awesome program.
We have to go back to say, well, what's going to help that young person? It needs to be tailor-made for them. If they engage in mentorship, if that's going to help them, if psychiatry or psychology is going to help them, we have to sit down with the young person and assess that young person based on what their needs are at the time and what's going to deter them from a life of crime and get them out of these postcode gangs.
The right pathway for these kids, counselling, which is open to them. What helped me in jail was that I found my faith. Coming out of jail, I struggled so much coming out of my front door, and counselling helped me with talking to people, getting out of my house, realising that, I can do this new life, I can change, and I want to. I think for a young person that's heading down that road, I think a PCYC, join a community, which is easy to do. You just got to take that step. At school, join a sport. Talk to your counsellors, a teacher. The relationships between students and teachers today are way better than what they used to be.
I just feel, a lot of kids now are really shut off. If you don't put yourself out there to help them, you'll never know what's going on. We have a real suicide rate at the moment, specifically kids who don't want to open up and take their own lives because they don't want to speak. And I'm just about the community and making sure that these kids get a head start in life.
When it came to staying on the straight and narrow, I think it was more of a spiritual thing, a gut feeling of knowing what's good, what's bad, and being taught by your parents what is good and bad, and then going off that intuition of what path I needed to go down to. So an intuition of don't go down that track because there's repercussions. I know it was a feeling.
To be playing at an elite level and to recognise and have an understanding of what it takes to get there, it ain't an easy road. The cultural side of things and the cultural sensitivity of us as players or as kids, that burden that we have in trying to succeed and and have that tag as the meal ticket, to a better life, is pretty hard as Pacific Islanders in general. But for the boys who have made it, can help change that mould slowly.
The reason I'm here in this situation is because of the sacrifices that my parents or my grandparents made for me to be here. And that's a common ground between a lot of us Pacific Islanders that are here, whether it's in New Zealand or Australia. We're here because of our forefathers, the sacrifices they made to bring us to countries with a lot more opportunities like Australia and New Zealand.
The Indigenous and Māori jerseys are more of a spiritual journey. There's like connection back to culture, back to country. It's a spiritual journey through camp. With the Wallabies and the Kangaroos, it's a business. It's about performance, but it's also individual rewards. But when you go into an Indigenous and Māori team, it's a spiritual journey. It's all about culture. You're talking about Dreamtime stories. You're talking about ancestors, history lessons, all that before you even playing football. Yeah, you'll hear Indigenous and Māori players say it's nothing like it, and that's probably the reason why, is that it's culture focused more than performance-based focused.
Most of us face challenges in our lives and come up against adversity that tests us to become the best we can be. We define who we are, not the postcode we live in. The possibilities are endless in a country like Australia, and there are so many opportunities to be whoever you want and live your life to its fullest potential.
If there's any ounce of you that doesn't want to do it, follow the ounce and go and talk to somebody. Find a mentor. Find somebody that you can actually look up to and talk to people.
There's always a better life than crime. You know, if you find times are hard, there's always someone you could talk to. You know, just reach out. That's the hardest thing for Pacifica and Arabic kids, you know, that find it hard to speak out and reach out to people. My door's always open. You can find me here or find me at the school.
Fight for your family. Fight to pay off your mum's house. Fight to set up a better life for your kids. Fight to go to work every day and work hard. Fight to be a good man. That's what you should be fighting for.
Learn about your culture. I would want nothing more than to have more understanding about my Samoan culture as well. There is so, you know, educate yourself and be stronger leaders within your community. No one cares. If you're tough, go and have a boxing fight. Go and train and have a fight. And let's see how tough you are. Go and do an 8-week camp, put yourself in front of a crowd, jump in a ring or a cage, and let's see how tough you are. That's tough to me. That's resilience, that's discipline. Rather than go and get on a train, go to a different area, carry a knife, shank someone, potentially kill them and spend the rest of your life in jail. That's weak, that's pathetic, it's soft. Go and win a world title. Go and win an Australian title. You know, that's respect. Do you want respect on the street? Go and learn a craft and then go and fight in front of people and see how tough you are then.
Believe in yourself, back yourself, and you know, that intuition, that gut feeling that's pulling you to something positive, you know, follow it. You'll be destined for a better future.
This is their heritage. This is who they are. This is where they come from.